A major shakeup in Leafs Nation. Brendan Shanahan is out as president of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Tonight, the front office fallout following the team's disappointing exit from the NHL playoffs. Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news. MLSE confirming late this afternoon they are parting ways with Leafs president Brendan Shanahan. He spent 11 seasons leading the hockey club, but despite regular season success, the team struggled in the playoffs, including a loss in the second round this year. CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us live with tonight's top story. Scott.
Well, Nathan, the Shana plan has now been Shana canned. Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment making the announcement late this afternoon they will not be renewing the contract of Brendan Shanahan, the president and alternate governor of the team. Now, that may not be the biggest surprise for fans, many feeling the team needs to make changes. This comes just days after that Game 7 loss to the Florida Panthers, ending yet another cupless year for the team here in Toronto. Shanahan is, of course, himself a Hall of Fame hockey player who worked in the NHL front office before taking on the role of president and alternate governor for the Leafs. Over the past 11 seasons, he's made a number of moves for the team, both on and off the ice. His strategy, which never achieved its goal of a Stanley Cup, was, of course, dubbed the Shana Plan. Now, in a statement this afternoon, Shanahan said, in part, "Well, I am proud of the rebuild we embarked on starting in 2014. Ultimately, I came here to help win the Stanley Cup, and we did not. There is nothing more I wanted to deliver to our fans, and my biggest regret is that we could not finish the job." MLSE President and CEO Keith Pelley released a statement as well, saying Shanahan made countless contributions to the team, adding, "Our responsibility and driving motivation, however, is to add a new chapter to the Maple Leafs championship history, and it was determined that a new voice was required to take the team to the next level in the years ahead. The franchise will be forever grateful for Brendan's contributions and wish him and his family every success and happiness in the future." Now, Pelley will speak to the media tomorrow. No word on if he'll give any clues as to who may be the person they are thinking of to take this role into the future. He will likely also be asked if the team is planning on making any other big changes in the offseason. Of course, the offseason has just begun. And Shanahan, as it was reported earlier this week, has already been approached, or at least the Leafs have been approached by the New York Islanders asking if they could speak to him about a job. So currently he is unemployed. He may, however, not stay unemployed for very long. Reporting live outside Scotiabank Arena, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. To Toronto City Hall in the debate over a bylaw that would restrict protests around places of worship, faith-based daycares and schools. Some are in favor, while others are critical, saying it would infringe on residents' rights. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us live from City Hall, where a vote was held a short time ago. Natalie.
That's right, Michelle. After a full day of debate here, City Council has voted 16-9 in favor of creating so-called bubble zones around some vulnerable institutions. The no-go zone for protests around this building is 50 meters, but this is not a blanket ban. The individual organizations have to apply for this special protection. In response to protests that have proliferated on the doorsteps of places of worship across the GTA, Toronto Council will implement so-called bubble zones.
My community has never been less safe.
Around some faith-based institutions, daycares, and schools.
This is an additional tool that will help bylaw, will help law enforcement to clear out and protect some of these spaces, particularly around places of worship, which we have seen have been targeted with hate, harassment, intimidation, and violence.
Those are places that children go.
Councillors clashing on whether pushing back some protests.
It comes at such a substantive cost.
Restricts rights.
Spaces belong to everybody, and everybody has the right to express themselves.
We are creating a system that is going to chill speech in this country.
It doesn't take any rights away. It doesn't take away the right to protest, the right to picket, or the right to free speech. And all it's doing is extending rights to those who want to walk into vulnerable institutions.
Vaughan and Brampton have passed similar bylaws establishing a 100-meter bubble zone around vulnerable institutions. Toronto Council settled on 50 meters after staff suggested 20.
20 meters is literally within the intimacy of the council floor.
A debate scrutinized by stakeholders on all sides.
There's such limited access to power and to politicians that if we take away one of the crucial tools that historically has served marginalized communities, it's a huge erosion of rights.
In front of a synagogue or daycare or school, kids and people have the right to walk in without being attacked.
Who is going to stand by and who is going to stand up?
Council deciding where the line lies on public protests.
And again, the individual institutions will need to apply for the special bubble zone protection that would keep protests 50 meters back from their buildings. If granted, those protections would be in place for 1 year's time, enforceable by both bylaw officers and the police. At City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Natalie. Law enforcement officials have stepped up their presence near Jewish community facilities right here in the GTA.
This follows a deadly shooting of 2 Israeli embassy workers in Washington, D.C., an incident officials are calling a targeted act of anti-Semitism. CTV's Judy Trin has the latest.
Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were set to be engaged later this summer. Instead, they were killed before they could begin their life together, gunned down outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C.
He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents.
The suspect has been identified as 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez. He was seen pacing outside the museum before the shooting.
So he pulls out his keffiyeh and he says, I did it. I did it for Gaza. Free, free Palestine. And he's chanting this. And then suddenly the police come in and they arrest him.
On social media, President Donald Trump offered his condolences to the families and said the D.C. killings were obviously based on anti-Semitism and must end now. Officials say the suspect targeted the Jewish community but acted alone. In the Toronto area, police say they will increase patrols around synagogues and Jewish community centers.
My thoughts are with their friends, their families, and the broader Jewish community, not only in the United States, but here in Canada. The rise in anti-Semitism is unacceptable.
Since the October 7th Hamas attacks, anti-Semitic acts have increased across the globe. They've included vandalism, arson, and assaults. And now this escalation to murder are leaving Jewish communities in Canada feeling vulnerable.
We're at a point now here where if we're going to host an event in Canada as a community, the details of that event aren't circulated until a few hours beforehand out of concern for the safety of people who are coming together. That's intolerable.
Earlier this week, Canada, Great Britain, and France threatened sanctions against Israel for expanding its offensive in Gaza and blocking humanitarian aid. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused the leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney, of siding with mass murderers, baby killers, and rapists, and being on the wrong side of history. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Also tonight, the clock is ticking. Mail delivery on the line. The deadline to avert a Canada Post strike is midnight. Can a deal be done? The latest on where negotiations stand.
But first, to the aftermath of 3 beautiful lives cut short by an alleged impaired driver.
Teachers and classmates joined loved ones to mourn the 3 siblings killed in a horrific crash this past weekend. As CTV's Mike Walker reports, the community support is offering some comfort amid overwhelming pain.
A grieving family and school community coming together for a memorial mass to remember 3 siblings who were killed in a crash involving an alleged impaired driver.
The service was beautiful. Those kids deserved to have a beautiful service. Memories of them, the speeches were amazing.
The children's aunt says this mass was an opportunity to help everyone heal together as teachers, classmates, and the community packed an East York church to remember the 15-year-old boy as a leader, his 13-year-old brother who was competitive in basketball, and their 6-year-old sister who loved doing cartwheels and making her friends happy. The children can't be identified due to a publication ban.
We are continuing to have good memories of them. Watching us grieve was really hard. I'm pretty sure all those students had a really hard time watching us. However, we all came as a collective because we believe that these kids, they deserve justice.
There is a growing memorial near the scene of Sunday's fatal crash at the intersection of Renforth Drive and the eastbound 401 off-ramp. That's where police say a minivan driven by a suspected impaired driver exited the 401 at a high rate of speed, lost control, and collided with the family's minivan that was stopped at a red light. The children's 10-year-old brother, their mother, and her boyfriend survived the crash. 19-year-old Ethan Lahue of Georgetown is facing a dozen charges. He appeared briefly in court earlier this week.
I just think it's one of the worst tragedies. It's just so sad. You know, like to lose 3 of your children at one time.
Tammy Upshaw is a retired teacher who knew the oldest son.
The message is basically to support each other, share love.
Support that the family says is helping them grieve during this unthinkable time.
Nothing can explain the loss that we have.
The family says the children's mother and her 10-year-old son continue to recover in hospital. Lahue remains in custody and is due back in court next month. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Still ahead, multi-digital upgrades to the city's 911 system. The major change is expected to reduce wait times and keep lines open when it matters most.
But first to the forecast as we take a live look outside this hour. A rainfall warning remains in effect. We've been drenched over the past couple of days, and you can see there it's not letting up yet. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with a look at the conditions right now. Jess.
The rain persists, and we're really still seeing the eye of the system sitting over us as we step into this kind of second half of our day. So take care if you're heading out on the roads this evening. It is going to be a challenging commute home and into the start of the day tomorrow. But there is good news as we make our way in towards our Friday. The system not entirely gone, but it does push its way east. Again, still under that rainfall warning here for the city. One has dropped through Niagara, but we do still have some special weather statements in place, areas north of us, and there is more rain as we roll through the evening. Temperature-wise, we remain below seasonal, but the trend is going to change just a little as we head in towards your weekend. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. There is a sunshine returning, but we just have to get through the next kind of 24 hours. Right now, it's back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Jess. We are now just hours away from another postal strike in this country.
Canada Post and the union representing its workers still at odds, with no signs of labor disruption can be avoided. CTV's Allison Hirsch joins us with the latest and the potential impact of a strike. Allison.
We are entering the final hours of the collective agreement, and the two sides still seem to be far apart. Canada Post proposed an offer yesterday, one the union said falls short. The offer on the table includes a little more than a 13% wage increase over 4 years, but the union was looking for closer to 19% to catch up after years of rampant inflation. Then there's the big sticking point in these negotiations, the part-time jobs and weekend work. The union continues to raise concerns about Canada Post's pitch to include more part-time staff and introduce dynamic routing. That's a model that could see mail delivery routes change daily to adjust to varying conditions. The union did ask for a 2-week pause to review this offer, delaying any work action while it was considered, but Canada Post said no, holding its position that it wants to get a deal done urgently and get back to the bargaining table. Meantime, a Canada Post spokesperson says they are already seeing a decline in the volumes of mail, and caught in the middle of it all are customers like small businesses, many of which still depend on Canada Post and are urgently trying to adjust.
There's a lot of panic on the part of many small businesses. Of course, this is less significant than at the Christmas retail season, but still for thousands and thousands of small firms, this is coming at a terrible time. We already have massive uncertainty in the economy because of U.S. tariffs, but many small firms remain fairly reliant on Canada Post to advertise or to ship goods, and finally to send payments.
Canada Post continues to say it's ready to be back at the table, but there are no talks scheduled. The collective agreement runs out tonight at 11:59. And with no new deal, you can expect to see workers on the picket lines first thing tomorrow morning. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. A change is coming to Toronto's 911 system that emergency services hope will help keep lines open and cut down on unnecessary delays.
And it's a new text feature. The first is a shift towards using more technological tools like AI to improve communication with dispatchers. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
All operators are busy assisting other callers.
Toronto's 911 system is getting a digital upgrade, and it could help save lives by keeping emergency lines open when it matters most. Under the new system, if you call 911 but hang up, or if your call doesn't go through right away, you'll receive a text message saying,
"Your phone called 911 and disconnected. If you have an emergency, text back 1 now. If no emergency, text back 9.
Press 1 and you'll get a call back. If you're in a situation where you cannot answer, a police response will still be sent. Press 9 and your call will be dropped from the queue entirely, and there is no fine for an accidental call.
If it's not easily understood or read in the time frame, we will also still give a call back to ensure that everything is okay. And if you text back anything else, the operators will not see it. The system is only equipped to handle the number 1 or the number 9.
We are in a live 911 call center where right now nuisance calls and misdials
consume 30 hours per day.
With this new texting feature, the goal is to free up these operators to respond to real emergencies faster.
This feature is part of Canada's move toward next-generation 911 technology. Toronto Police implemented the first phase last summer. In the years ahead, they hope people will also be able to send pictures or videos to 911 dispatchers, something already in use across parts of the United States. The service is also focusing heavily on artificial intelligence.
AI is here and it's going to make a huge difference. But what we're trying to do is deploy it in an assistive way to the call takers. So helping them with translation, helping them to understand risk flags that are being spoken to them through the phone.
But for now, the priority is keeping the lines open for those in crisis and cutting down on unnecessary delays. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
3 people were injured in a crash in Scarborough. It happened on Eglinton near Midland just before 11:30 this morning. Police say 3 people had to be freed from the vehicles before they were taken to hospital. Their injuries are not considered life-threatening. Eglinton has since reopened.
And a woman in her 30s was taken to hospital after a hit and run in Etobicoke. Toronto police say she was struck near Islington and Eglinton around 9:15 last night. Her injuries are non-life-threatening. The vehicle involved left the scene, and there's no description. Anyone with information is urged to come forward.
We're getting insight tonight into a months-long investigation into illegal firearm and drug trafficking in Durham region.
Police sharing details of what they're calling Project Venture. And as CTV's Beth McDonnell reports, has led to arrests and more than 100 charges.
These guns are, there's 2 Glocks there.
It's a haul of firearms, drugs, and cash Durham police say is connected to a network of illegal gun trading in the GTA.
People are profiting from this, and these are tools of death. These guns are used to commit robberies, street-level robberies, commercial robberies, carjackings.
Earlier this month, police executed warrants at homes in Waterloo, Toronto, and Durham and recovered a dozen firearms. 4 guns are linked to the U.S., 1 in BC, and 1 stolen from a legally registered owner. The work, beginning in November of last year, is 6 months in the making.
Project Venture was an undercover operation. We were targeting a drug trafficker that was operating in our region. And through those contacts and dealing with that drug trafficker, we were able to move up the supply chain.
Police also seized cocaine with a street value of $300,000 and $100,000 in cash. 10 men have been arrested, ranging in age from 25 to 58 years old, and are facing 112 charges related to trafficking, drugs, and weapons. Just a few weeks since the raids, police say only 3 of the accused remain in custody, with 7 of the men released on bail.
It is frustrating because our officers, they're very passionate about their work. They want to make this community the safest place.
Police are still searching for 1 man wanted as part of this investigation, 33-year-old Dexter Taylor Bailey of Mississauga. All of this is important, Durham police say, because firearm incidents are up by 15% over the past 5 years. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
It's been more than 3 weeks since Canadians went to the polls and elected a new government under Prime Minister Mark Carney.
As parties prepare for the return of Parliament, the new PM was officially sworn in today as a member of the House of Commons.
I do swear.
I do swear.
That I will be faithful.
That I will be faithful.
And bear true allegiance.
And bear true allegiance.
To His Majesty.
To His Majesty.
King Charles III.
King Charles III.
Carney won the Ottawa area riding of Nepean with a lead of more than 22,000 votes over his Conservative opponent. This comes as he's preparing a throne speech to formally lay out his minority government's plans. It'll be delivered next week by King Charles after Parliament resumes and MPs choose a new speaker.
And today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre named his party's leadership team and critic roles for the new parliamentary session. 48 MPs are taking on critic roles, and another 14 will be associate critics. That's 9 more critics than the number of Liberal cabinet ministers and secretaries of state. Melissa Lantsman and Tim Uppal will remain as deputy leaders of the Conservatives, and former party leader Andrew Scheer will lead the opposition in the House, while Pierre Poilievre seeks a new seat in the House of Commons.
As the Prime Minister prepares to host his fellow G7 leaders at next month's summit in Alberta, we now know the U.S. President will be attending in person. The White House press secretary confirmed Donald Trump will travel to Canada from June 15th to the 17th when the two leaders met earlier this month in Washington. Prime Minister Mark Carney noted they were looking forward to the summit in Kananaskis. It comes amid the simmering standoff between Canada and the U.S. linked to Trump's tariffs and his comments about making Canada the 51st state. As G7 finance ministers wrapped up their own summit in Alberta today, CTV News asked Canada's François-Philippe Champagne if those trade tensions were discussed.
There's always discussion about how we can have more freedom, I would say, of goods between and trade between our countries. So there's no doubt that there's discussion around that policy of tariff by the United States. But I would say there's also a very constructive discussion about what's the way forward that we can adopt and where can we find common ground to tackle other global challenges like we've seen overcapacity, non-market practices, which are affecting our respective economies.
The minister said there is a clear sense of unity between members of the G7, proven by the fact ministers found common ground on issues like global economic stability, AI, and the war in Ukraine. Still, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem said participants didn't forget the ongoing trade war.
Obviously, tariffs are on all of our minds, and the discussion very much did include a focus on improving the dialogue around tariffs and on fixing the problems in the global trading system. The communique highlights that we are pleased to see that uncertainty has come down, but we clearly have more work to do.
The agreements reached at the preliminary meeting also help set expectations for what might be accomplished at next month's Leaders Summit.
As it carries out more military strikes, Israel is facing mounting pressure to dramatically increase the amount of humanitarian aid it's currently allowing into Gaza. This scene is being played out across Gaza, people lining up to get food for the day. But many say there isn't enough to feed their children. Israel is once again allowing some humanitarian trucks into Gaza, but UN officials say it's far from enough, and distribution issues are preventing aid from reaching Palestinians in desperate need. Israel said it was blockading aid to pressure Hamas to free hostages as the war in Gaza continues. Also today, officials with Global Affairs met with Israel's ambassador to Canada after shots were fired near Canadian delegates touring the occupied West Bank on Wednesday. Israel says the group deviated from an approved route, and it fired what it calls warning shots, and that, quote, it regrets the inconvenience. Prime Minister Mark Carney is demanding a full investigation. The Israeli ambassador said that it's standard procedure.
We're learning more about a deadly private plane crash in Southern California this morning. The business jet went down just before 4 a.m. in a military housing community in San Diego, smashing into a number of homes and cars. Officials had reported at least 2 deaths. Then this afternoon, a music talent agency confirmed 3 of its employees had died in the crash. It still remains unclear how many people were on board, while a number of people were treated for minor injuries and smoke inhalation on the ground. The investigation is in its early stages.
Back in Washington, Republicans are claiming a victory in Congress after passing a sweeping package of tax cuts, spending reductions, and other pledges made by the Trump administration.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with 1 answering present. The bill is passed.
The bill, which would add $3.8 trillion to the U.S. debt over the next decade, passed by a razor-thin margin. 2 Republicans voted against it, as did all of the Democrats. The bill will deliver tax cuts on tips and car loans, boost spending on the military and border enforcement, while cutting into Medicaid and food stamps. The package now goes to the Republican-controlled Senate for approval. And staying south of the border, there's been another major escalation in the standoff between the Trump administration and Harvard University. The U.S. government today revoked the school's legal ability to enroll international students. The Department of Homeland Security linked the move in part to its allegations that Harvard created an unsafe campus environment for Jewish students amid pro-Palestinian demonstrations last year, something the university denies. Harvard says today's actions were unlawful and is working to provide guidance to students.
With ocean waters sitting at warmer than normal temperatures, forecasters are predicting an unusually busy Atlantic hurricane season.
13 to 19 named storms. That's when we get to 39 miles an hour when we name the storms. So 13 to 19 of those. Of these, 6 to 10 are forecast to become hurricanes. And that's when you get to the 74 mile an hour mark. And 3 to 5 is the number of major hurricanes. That's Cat 3 and above.
There are usually only around 14 named storms, but last year there were 18, and it ended up being the third costliest season on record. Despite major job cuts at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, officials say they are fully staffed up and ready to go.
Coming up, another blow to Canada's auto sector. Stellantis is putting the brakes on production of one of its EVs in Windsor as the feds and province offer assurances jobs won't be affected.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, get ready to pay more for many items as more companies say they plan to raise prices to deal with the tariff situation. Viewers are telling us goods they've ordered are now coming with added charges for tariffs and duties. All of that story just ahead.
And no surprise, more rain here, but we will see a break as we head into the next 24 to 48 hours. We're still nowhere near seasonal, but we do trend a little closer as we head in towards the weekend. Throughout the day tomorrow, 10 degrees apiece as we kind of get to that midpoint of our day in early evening. Coming up here at Full Forecast, and stay with us, we have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Last week, Loblaws and Walmart announced they'd be raising prices on certain items due to the ongoing trade war.
Today, other companies like Nike said they would be raising their prices for shoes and apparel, while Ralph Lauren said it, too, may have to hike the cost of its goods. Here's Pat Foran with a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. Consumers could end up paying more for clothing and beauty products, as well as cars and electronics. More companies are saying they'll have no choice but to pass on the tariffs, meaning you could soon see extra charges on your receipts. More than half of U.S. businesses surveyed by the Alliance Insurance Company say they plan to raise prices to cover the added costs of tariffs. For Canadians ordering products that come from outside of Canada, it means you could end up paying more.
There's a bit of a shock right now, a sticker shock.
Some consumers are contacting CTV News to say their online orders are showing additional charges for duties and tariffs. This towel, listed for $95, came to $209 with shipping, duties, and taxes. On another website, a $120 dress had duties of $21.60. On TikTok, a fan of Tate McRae was shocked when more than $100 was added to her clothing purchase from the singer's website.
$134 for government charges. I'm sorry, is Tate McRae works for the government?
It's a bit of a weird situation right now. Different manufacturers, smaller ones, are deciding how they want to show that tariff, if they want to show it at all.
While companies are dealing with the tariffs differently, most analysts agree they will cause consumer goods to cost more.
Prices are going to increase as a consequence of the current sort of geopolitical dynamics, specifically between the U.S. and Canada.
This marketing professor says now when you're buying an item, you should try to find out the seller's location and any tariffs that will be applied.
And if you're ordering from outside Canada, you're more likely to pay duties and import taxes, even if the site is a Canadian URL or prices are in Canadian dollars.
There is also a concern about big ticket items like the cost of vehicles. With the uncertainty in the auto market, many Canadians have purchased new and used cars over the past 3 months. Auto Trader says it expects prices to continue to rise if the tariff situation remains the same.
If they need to buy a car, buy it now, because if this is long term, prices might go up even further. So if you're on the sidelines, if you have the financial means, pull the trigger.
And often when you buy a product, it may travel through several countries before ending up in Canada. One way to try and avoid tariffs is to buy Canadian. And surveys show more consumers are supporting Canadian businesses. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Another day of raincoats, rubber boots, and umbrellas. It's been an unseasonable stretch of cold and rainy May weather.
These chilly conditions definitely on the minds of anyone spending any time outdoors today.
It's really cold and really windy. It feels like January without snow.
Yeah, it feels like winter is just starting over. There's no spring, it's just winter again.
No. This is just a cold snap. And it's not just the wet conditions. I don't know if you noticed leaves and branches being snapped off. We had some big wind yesterday. And you worry about flooding because we've had so much rain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind, I guess, cool temperatures sometimes, but it'll give me some sunshine at least. We're getting neither.
I'm sick of it. I'm ready for it to be done. The good news is we do get a little warmer as we head into the weekend. Still not quite seasonal, but I'll just take sunshine at this point. And, you know, it wasn't a great day to be outside, especially for outdoor competition, but that's exactly what hundreds of high school students did in York Region. They were out there today. This was at the YRAA Track and Field Championships held at Bill Crothers Secondary School in Unionville. Some of the athletes were out there. They even had winter coats on and rain jackets while they were warming up. Some of the events were delayed, but the good news is it continues tomorrow, and it is a little better. They're holding on to the small wins when it comes to track and field and your forecast. We do see the rain continue this evening. It gets a little bit better tomorrow as it tracks east, and then by the weekend we finally get some reprieve. Temperature-wise, though, we're still well below that seasonal mark right across the province for the most part. But our friends up in Red Lake, they're tapping into some warmer air that is pushing its way into the prairies. Into this evening, we're actually not that far off the seasonal mark, and with a fairly light wind, it's not terrible if you forget about the rain, but the rain is sticking with us overnight and into the day tomorrow. Give yourself time for that commute this evening and as we step in towards our Friday. Your Friday forecast still nowhere near where we should be, but the bulk of that rain really is in the first half of the day before it tracks its way east. We don't get sunshine, but we get a bit of a break from some of the active weather. The eye of the system really is still sitting over us. That's what's causing all this rain and localized flooding. Still seeing some rainfall warnings a little further east of the city. Toronto now under a special weather statement. It's just changing that quickly as the system moves, but we've already seen about 40 millimeters as we've made our way through the day today, and there's more on the way as we wrap up our day on Thursday. Again, the bulk of that low will push its way through. Behind it, this trough, this blue dotted line is going to linger. That's what brings the chance of showers into the day tomorrow, but we aren't looking at an all-day rain affair, so finally a little bit of a break. Again, the rest of our evening, it's a soggy one, so take care out on the roads, especially after sunset. Even darker, full headlights, a good idea. As we get into the day tomorrow, showers for that early morning commute, and then it's not a break from the rain, but at least we get a little bit of a reprieve, and we're holding on to showers just east of the downtown core. So the west end, you get a break first, and then it kind of makes its way across as we head in through the rest of our day on Friday. Into the afternoon and evening, again, just mostly overcast conditions. So if you do have evening plans, it's not a washout by any stretch. And stepping into your Saturday, still some scattered showers, but for the most part, if you have outdoor activities, you'll be able to get through them without needing all that extra gear. It has been unseasonably cool. We will hold on to this cooler weather as we head through the next couple of days. We don't see a rebound where those kind of oranges and yellows make their way in until the first week of June. But for now, we'll focus on the positive, and that is the fact that we get close to seasonal as we head into the weekend. Still below as we head into your Friday, but again, periods of rain through the morning. We get a little break into the afternoon, early evening. No slight chance of a scattered shower to kick off your weekend. But by Sunday, finally some sunshine. It feels like it has been forever and a day since we've seen the sun, but it does return just in time for your Sunday. We get up to 16. No, it is not seasonal, but it is warmer than it is right now, so we're going to hold on to that. Into your Monday, lots of sunshine out there, up to 18 degrees, a beautiful start to the work and school week. We dip down just a little, then another chance of rain as we head in towards Wednesday, but I'm keeping my eye on Thursday and that 19 degrees. Yes, it is cool. Yes, it is below seasonal, but we will see a return eventually. Michelle, back to you.
The warmth will come. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, the online trend touting mouth taping as a way to sleep better. Why a new study is putting the practice to bed, suggesting it could be dangerous.
Doctors in Canada and around the world are expressing concern about a practice being touted in social media as a way to eliminate snoring and sleep apnea.
But as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, it could actually be harmful for some people.
Dr. Brian Rotenberg first noticed postings on TikTok and Instagram about mouth taping about 5 years ago, but he says 2 years ago its popularity exploded.
In all honesty, Pauline, I was very surprised that this is everywhere. And the people who are recommending this have large numbers of subscribers and followers, like thousands, tens of thousands.
So he and his colleagues began examining good quality medical studies from around the world to see if there is any real benefit to mouth tape for people who snore or who have sleep apnea. He even tried it himself.
So good quality evidence does not show any benefit at all from mouth taping. 20% does show some benefit, but we have to get a little bit nuanced here, that the benefit is likely statistical and not clinical.
He says sleep apnea is experienced by about 9% of the male population and 3 to 6% of females.
So sleep apnea is a disorder caused by collapsing of our throat when we're breathing at night. Tongue, palate, tonsils, all those things are blocking your airway. And if you're taping your mouth because your nose is blocked, so you've got throat closure, not a good nasal airway, and now you've blocked your mouth, this doesn't make any sense to do at all. And there's actually a real risk of harm with that.
The harm is that the body gets a reduced amount of oxygen at night, leading to fatigue, lack of deep sleep, and sometimes even headaches.
And then the issue is that over time, untreated apnea is associated with increased risk of heart attack, stroke, dementia, depression, and even higher rates of car accidents.
If you suffer from sleep apnea or snoring, there are various treatments, but Dr. Rotenberg says the first step is to get assessed by a proper health professional instead of resorting to unscientific methods. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Public Health Ontario says measles cases continue to climb, largely due to spread among people who haven't been immunized. The latest weekly update shows 1,795 infections reported in this province since an infected individual traveled from New Brunswick in October. That's an increase of 173 from last week. 129 patients have been hospitalized with the virus. Most of them, 121, were unvaccinated, including 92 children. The outbreak has centered mostly, but not entirely, in southwestern Ontario. Health experts say the vaccine remains the best defense against the highly contagious and potentially deadly virus.
After the break, the road less traveled. New data highlights the steep decline in Canadian car trips to the U.S. amid the ongoing trade war. Updating our top stories, the Maple Leafs are parting ways with team president Brendan Shanahan after 11 years. Despite regular season success, the team struggled in the playoffs, including their recent second-round loss. Shanahan thanked the organization, players, and fans, and called his time with the franchise one of the greatest honors of his life.
We are creating a system that is going to chill speech in this country.
It doesn't take any rights away. It doesn't take away the right to protest.
After intense debate at Toronto City Hall, councillors voted to create a bylaw limiting protests outside places of worship and other vulnerable institutions on a case-by-case basis. Similar policies have previously been passed in Vaughan and Brampton.
For thousands and thousands of small firms, this is coming at a terrible time.
And the countdown is on to a potential Canada Post strike. About 55,000 members of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers could be off the job shortly after midnight.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca, and you can download the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar remained relatively unchanged at 72.12. Our fix on Western Canadian Select Oil has it down to 50.92, and only a slight move for the TSX today. It's up 14 points.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
There's been another blow to Canada's already fragile auto industry. Carmaker Stellantis says it's postponing production of its electric Dodge Charger, which was set to be built in Windsor. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
It's an all-electric, supposedly all-American muscle car made on this side of the Detroit River in Windsor. But now Stellantis is pausing production of the 2026 model of one version of the Charger, taking time to consider the effects of tariffs.
This Daytona RT was the entry level EV, and then there's an internal combustion version.
Flavio Volpe explains the rejig makes sense for a company trying to stay afloat, waiting to make more of a car whose buyers may be scared off by increased prices.
In the face of not just Donald Trump's 25% tariffs, but also gutting the EV purchase incentive of $7,500 in the U.S.
The pullback comes in a spring of changes to auto production, not just in Windsor, but in auto towns across the province. A Windsor MPP admits he's concerned.
The stability of the workforce is something that is now at risk. But it is a great workforce.
Canada's industry minister meeting with auto industry players in Oshawa Thursday, but began her day on a call with Stellantis' CEO.
He assured me that all jobs at Stellantis in Canada would be protected and all conditions of workers would remain the same.
Right now, about 4,500 people work in Windsor. A spokesperson for Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade says in part, President Trump's unjustified tariffs are causing chaos and uncertainty throughout the global auto sector. Stellantis has assured us there will be no impact to the current employment levels at their Windsor plant. Facing an uncertain route through tariffs and sluggish demand for electric vehicles, there are calls for Canada to back off a plan to phase out new gas-powered cars by 2035.
Which is causing havoc for industry in terms of the planning timeframe that just doesn't match the EV pickup that we've seen across North America and in Canada in particular.
There's no new information about the Stellantis plant in Brampton. It was being retooled for the next generation of Jeep Compass. But in February, the company announced that was on pause too, as it re-examined its North American product strategy. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
New figures show the trend of Canadians skipping out on trips to the U.S. isn't slowing down. Stats Canada released border crossing data up to March of this year. It shows Canadian residents made 4.3 million trips returning from abroad that month, and that's nearly a 15% decrease compared to the same month in 2023. Return trips by car over the land border with the United States were down more than 31%. At the same time, trips to Canada among U.S. residents were also down 6.6% year over year.
The Blue Jays were looking for the series sweep this afternoon against the San Diego Padres. Nathan Lucas hit a walk-off single to left field in the 11th inning as Toronto took this one 7-6 to sweep their series with the Padres. The Jays now head to Tampa to open a 3-game series with the Rays tomorrow night.
Just ahead of Hamilton High School honors a hometown hero and one of their own. Students and staff assembled to celebrate Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's MVP award.
Tonight, an astonishing new wave of AI-generated technology.
It is exciting, sort of these technological advances, but I think that this poses some pretty severe threats.
How videos that sound real are faking people out. Later on CTV National News.
Finally tonight, a hometown celebration in Hamilton for the NBA's newest, most valuable player.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, only the second Canadian ever to earn the title, and today he was honored at his former high school. CTV's John Musselman reports.
An honor to be in the conversation in itself.
He has reached the top of his game and is considered one of the best basketball players in the world. And for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, the road to success started in this Hamilton High School gym not long ago.
I think most kids in the community and in any small town or large town in Ontario and Canada can see themselves in Shea. He's just a regular kid that worked really hard and took every opportunity that he had to make something of himself. So I think that's eye-opening for any kid who has a dream.
His former coach says Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who's also known as Shea or SGA for short, was a regular kid in many ways, but he was a great athlete who was dedicated and determined. Last night, Shea, who stars for the Oklahoma City Thunder, was named the most valuable player in the NBA, only the second Canadian to ever win the award. Victoria's Steve Nash won MVP awards in 2005 and 2006.
This is the first Canadian basketball player I knew of, and without seeing guys go to the NBA from Canada, it wouldn't have been as much of a dream as it was for us as kids growing up. So to be in a conversation with a guy like that and what he's meant to not only basketball, but to the country of Canada, has been special.
You know, you can only imagine and get excited about all the kids around the world, but in particular Canadians that will be affected so positively, whether they're basketball players or not, by the way he carries himself, by the way he, kind of executes and commits to his profession.
Back at his Hamilton High School today, students and staff at Sir Allan McNabb attended an assembly to celebrate the award. The school also unveiled a new mural on the exterior wall of the gymnasium.
It's a huge inspiration, especially as a young kid coming out of Hamilton, seeing what he's doing. It's a huge inspiration for us.
After winning the award, Shea thanked his teammates and surprised each of them with a new Rolex watch. Back in the gym, there were some cookies with Shea's face on them to mark the occasion. John Musselman, CTV News in Hamilton.
And congrats again to SGA. Good luck to OKC. Isn't it great from Hamilton?
Honestly, Hamilton produces winners. Yeah, amazing. And McNabb, our basketball team played McNabb growing up, and they were always really good.
It's so cool. Shout out to the Hammer. And you can play basketball outside soon.
Eventually.
Not today or tomorrow, but as you head into the weekend, you can play basketball outside. It is still pretty cool out there, but we are getting there, right? This has been an unseasonable stretch with a ton of rain, but there is some hope on the horizon. We get a little break as we head into the second half of our day tomorrow. But you can see that low still swirling over us. The good news and the difference today is it's not as just aggressively windy as it was if you were outside yesterday. You felt it. We're at 10 degrees. It's not too far off the seasonal mark as we head into this evening. Into the morning tomorrow, still raining. Give yourself some time. But looking ahead to the weekend, it is going to get a little bit nicer out there. So there is some positivity in the long range.
We cannot wait. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us. But be sure to join Omar Sajidina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarida Ullman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.